Hello, welcome to the Rostra. I'm Benjamin Berman. So let me take you to the Middle East, the West Bank. It's Saturday evening, March 14th, in the town of Tamun. A family is driving home after buying clothes for Eid. It's a family of 6, a mother, a father, and their 4 children. The father's driving. Minutes later, without warning, their car is riddled with bullets by Israeli soldiers. 4 of the family are dead. 2 of the children survive. The 2 surviving brothers, Mustafa 8 and Khalid 11, are pulled from the wreckage by Israeli soldiers after watching their parents and siblings die. Khalid would later explain that soldiers dragged him and his brother from the car, beat him and told him, "We killed dogs," referring to his slain family. The boys were then stripped, interrogated, and forced to sit on the ground. These were little children who had just watched their entire family die. This is not an isolated incident. This is an example of daily life for Palestinians in the West Bank today. To fully understand this, we need to zoom out. It's been nearly 59 years of occupation. 59 years that Israel has had illegal control over the West Bank, according to international law. But occupation implies something temporary. What we're seeing now is something else entirely. A system of expanding settlements, military-backed settler violence, and policies that point toward permanent annexation, without rights for the people who live there. In 2025 alone, Israel approved 22 new Israeli settlements and legalized multiple settler outposts. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich described this as moving toward full Israeli sovereignty. Now that's a critical phrase, because sovereignty doesn't mean occupation, it means permanent control. During a recent speech in February, Smotrich declared that Israel will settle Gaza and apply sovereignty over the West Bank and encourage emigration of the enemy out of their land, referring to Palestinians. In other words, he's publicly called for forcing Palestinians from the West Bank and Gaza, also known as ethnic cleansing. And the Israeli settler expansion isn't random, it's strategic. Settler projects like the E1 corridor are designed to divide the West Bank into disconnected enclaves and prevent the formation of a viable Palestinian state. This goal of never seeing a Palestinian state has been openly stated by Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. According to Amnesty International, the Israeli settlement policies amount to unlawful annexation and forcible transfer of Palestinians. At the same time, violence on the ground has surged. Since October 2023, over 1,700 settler attacks have been recorded, and tens of thousands of Palestinians have been displaced. These aren't isolated clashes. They include armed raids on villages, burning of homes and farmland, and killing of civilians. And critically, this violence is often not independent. According to the United Nations, settler attacks are sometimes coordinated with authorities and often supported by the Israeli military. Amnesty International describes it as state-backed settler violence, and in many cases, soldiers are present during the attacks or intervene in ways that protect the settlers, and even arrest Palestinians who are the victims. Which means the line between civilian violence and state policy is disappearing. According to the Israeli human rights group B'Tselem, between 2023 and 2025, Israel killed 1,221 Palestinians in the West Bank, including 263 children. Most of them were killed by the Israeli military, with 31 shot by Israeli settler terrorist militias. Since the beginning of this year, Israel has killed 24 Palestinians in the West Bank, 6 by settler terrorist militias, and 18 by the Israeli military, including the murder of the O'Day family in Tanum. The result is not just violence, it's displacement. The pattern is consistent. Villages are attacked by violent mobs of Israeli settlers who are supported and protected by the Israeli military. Palestinians are harassed, shot at, beaten, even killed. Livelihoods are destroyed. Families are forced to leave their land. The United Nations has warned that this may amount to mass forcible transfer. In plain terms, a system that pushes people off their land, often with violence, or in other words, ethnic cleansing. not through a single event, but through sustained pressure. And behind all this is a clear extremist and illiberal ideological vision in Israel. As previously mentioned, key figures in the Israeli government have openly advocated for the annexation of the West Bank, expansion of settlements, and permanent Israeli control. This aligns with the idea often referred to as Greater Israel, a vision of full control over the land with Palestinians either displaced or permanently subordinated, with the ultimate Israeli objective being to eventually kick Palestinians out of their land completely. Human rights organizations have declared that this system already has a name. It's called Apartheid. Over the 59 years of the illegal occupation, Israel has implanted an increasingly violent apartheid regime in the West Bank that terrorizes, brutalizes, and has complete control over every aspect of Palestinians' lives. Human rights organizations like Amnesty International and Israeli human rights groups like B'Tselem and Breaking the Silence all point to the same structure. Two populations under one authority with completely different rights. Israeli settlers live under civil law and enjoy full rights and protections. Palestinians have Israeli military law imposed on them, face extreme restrictions on their movement, with military checkpoints throughout the West Bank, at which Palestinians are often forced to wait for hours. Even the roads are segregated. Palestinians aren't allowed to travel down certain roads. Israeli settlers are allowed to travel wherever they please in the West Bank. There are also severe restrictions on land use, water use, and Palestinians have no meaningful political power. Under Israeli apartheid rule, the Palestinians are a population that is constantly harassed, arrested, evicted from their homes, and even killed, and that includes children. B'Tselem calls this a regime of Jewish supremacy. There's also growing concern that the tactics used in Gaza are now being applied in the West Bank. This includes expanded military raids, airstrikes in the West Bank, and mass arrests, including the arrest of children. So when we go back to that moment in Tamun, a Palestinian family shot in their car, 2 little boys surviving only to be beaten by Israeli soldiers, it doesn't stand alone. It fits into a broader system of unequal rights enforced by Israeli law and Israeli military force. What's happening in the West Bank today is no longer just occupation. It is a permanent structure, one defined by control, segregation, and the systematic removal of a population from its homeland. What we're seeing today in the West Bank is violent apartheid and incremental ethnic cleansing.